And we are back, and it is time for ElseViews. Corey renamed all the segments, and I'm loving this. But this used to be the nerding out segment, but this is basically the section where we talk about a TV show, movie, game, music, or whatever nerdy thing we want to talk about in depth. Um, I'm gonna go first with one, and if Corey, if you don't have something, I got backups.
Actually, that's the thing is I knew exactly what you were going to talk about with this one. I watched the first episode of this. I have not seen the second one yet, so don't be a dick.
Nope.
Oh, you can. That's right. We say at the beginning that we're dicks. So sure, go ahead.
So this one, it's well, first off, I'm gonna say I fucking called it the last episode. On a side little thing about the Mick, the pilot was almost like a shot for shot remake of Sons of Tucson. The second episode sort of redeemed itself a little bit, but episode's like, this is just Sons of Tucson with Caitlin Olsen as opposed to Tyler Labine.
Which itself sounds like an improvement. No offense. I mean, some offense maybe a little bit to Tyler, but Caitlin Olsen is a badass.
Yeah,
she is a comedy fucking mastermind, and she comes from a troop of them in Always Sunny, but even on her own, like anything I've seen her in, she's just made.
But no, I just wanted to point that out before we got into our nerding out of Sherlock season 4, or as Alan Cumming says it on Masterpiece, Sherlock. But yeah, so the first 2 episodes have aired so far.
Everything sounds better when you're Cummings,
not Goings.
No.
But the first 2 episodes are out. The first episode of the season was called the 6 Thatchers. I almost said the 2 Thatchers. We lost 4 of them. And then the second episode was the Lying Detective, and I want to get your opinion on the 6 Thatchers.
In what regard?
Because I've heard a lot of people, and actually before I watched the second episode, I actually tuned to PBS a little early and saw a behind the scenes thing on the first episode. And it talked, a lot of people I had seen a lot of people talk about the fact that, like, oh, this is the more James Bond and not Sherlock Holmes.
All right. So first of all, let's reestablish, like we do at the beginning, this is going to be spoilery. And I'm saying in particular about this episode because heavy shit goes down in this episode. So if you have not seen it, if you watch Sherlock and you're just like, oh, I haven't gotten to this one yet, or you're like me and you go, is BBC or PBS or ABC, another bad creation, Belle Biv DeVoe, just whatever your process is. If you haven't watched it yet, you're probably gonna wanna skip over the ElseViews right now to go see at least the first one. And Sherlock, the episodes we know they're like mini movies anyways, but they are continuity in the fact that it matters that you see them in order. It matters because there is a through point for all of them as it goes along. You are growing with these characters. They are changing. They are learning. They are suffering. All of these things do happen in a respect that coincides with how the story lands. But when you watch an episode, it's like having seen another film. So by the time you get to this point, it's like watching the Harry Potter films. You know, you're 9 films in or whatever, and you've got a feeling for these characters. And so when shit happens to them, now we're at 10. But when shit happens to them, it's a big effect on you as a viewer and as a fan. So again, just to warn you, we're going to talk this out.
Yes. And I have to say the through point, you hit that on the head. Because where the 6 Thatchers, and I'm being vague on it now, more for the effect of we haven't talked about it yet, but the end of the 6 Thatchers is essentially the beginning of the Lying Detective. And what I will say right now, also as a broad generality, is the Lying Detective is I would almost say a perfect mashup of classic Sherlock Holmes and Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock Holmes. And I'm gonna leave it at vague like that. But I want to hit her first on the Six Thatchers, because this was also, in my opinion, a great send off um for Mary Watson. Um, and this with this story, you come in and you know nothing about this. You just know people are smashing um busts of Margaret Thatcher. The
Well, back up for a second, because when we come in, and
Oh,
they do reestablish that, so they skip over a lot of the stuff that happened in the special. I guess it was a holiday special that
yeah,
happened fucking 2 years ago now. Um,
that was last year.
but was it last? It seems like it was longer than that. Um, but
I don't
they
know,
it kind of
the Christmas special.
they pick up more where they left off at the end of the last season or series,
Yes.
when where Sherlock kills the guy with the mind castle and shit, and goes away, and then they bring him back and they kind of excuse him of it because Moriarty has returned in some way. And so a lot of the opening is the idea of Sherlock preparing to meet the challenge of Moriarty and going through the motions of all these other cases and stuff he's supposed to solve. So they kind of like, they introduce the idea that the Moriarty thing is going to happen, and he's mentally prepping himself, and he's trying to just wait it out by solving all these various cases, and that's what leads into this case of the Six Thatchers.
Yes. So forget what brought it on. It was a kidnapping. What was suspected to be a kidnapping at first. Or no, murder.
It was a murder.
Yeah.
It was a random murder that they couldn't figure out. Dead body found in a car that had been dead for a week.
Yep.
When they had just seen the car was empty, and the person was supposed to be in another country. It was supposed to be in Tibet.
Yeah. And so Sherlock comes in and he notices with his brilliant minds of deduction that, the mom has OCD, and there is a big spot missing on this nightstand or table that is basically a tribute to Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of England and the first female Prime Minister of England. And they point out that, yeah, there was a bust of her that got busted. Ha ha ha. And we later find out that going back to the last series, or season, I will switch between these because, doing a British podcast for a while, you get stuck in your head. If it airs in Britain, it's called a series. But you learn that Mary was in this like special forces get up, and it does more backstory with them, with the AGRA. And you have, just this brilliant storytelling about her, and I wish I would have caught sooner her demise. Put it here, spoiler, she dies at the end. But it because, like, looking back at it now, it makes sense, but then I'm just like, this is great storytelling. What the fuck sort of thing.
Yeah, so we go through the rigmarole of Sherlock trying to solve this case, and in like walking in and already knowing the answer to the case, but finding another mystery that he assumes is the Moriarty leading him on to the bigger thing. He starts following this whole other thing down the rabbit hole and kind of dismissing the family who just realized that their son is dead, because he's far more interested in this thing with the Six Thatchers, which is basically Thatcher heads, busts being broken and randomly, and trying to figure out why. And what we find out is that it actually has nothing to do with Moriarty at all. It leads into the problem of Mary's background of being a spy assassin, and on her last mission, her team all being what she thought was killed. One of them escapes from where they were all held and tortured, and has assumed that she was a double agent. and
Yeah.
is coming after her accordingly. So we go through the things. Probably one of the just most brilliant Sherlockian things is Mary drugs Sherlock, goes into hiding, like uses dice to randomly choose where she's going to go, how she's going to move around, what she's going to do to keep everything off of her trail. And she just like she disguises herself as old lady on a plane. Then she knocks out a stewardess and disguises herself as the stewardess. Gets documents, stuff she has planted in one of her safe places. Uses that, goes just like across oceans, through the deserts, everything you can think of. Walks into this place in what I'm assuming is probably like Tibet or something.
It
And then
was
there's Sherlock sitting there.
it was Morocco, I thought.
Morocco, yes.
It was
And
like
there's
it was like
Sherlock sitting
Northern
there
Africa.
having tea with somebody. And she's like, "How the hell did you find me?" And he like gives this long explanation of like, "No, there's 40 billion ways that I could figure out how to do it." And then he's like, "But actually what I did is I put a tracer on the on the flash drive that you had." And it's just so perfect. It's just she walks in, she sees him, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And just he just cuts her off. And that is like a great moment because it shows the humor and it shows the relationship between him and Mary. And what a lot of this episode is that Sherlock has had to fake his own death before, and in the last series that they had, Sherlock had to adjust to Mary's relationship with John Watson, and it leads from them first dating to getting closer, and Mary and Sherlock getting to know each other, and then the reveal after their wedding of who Mary actually is. And Sherlock has made a promise to protect her at all costs, protect her and John at all costs, and now they have a child and protecting that baby at all costs. So it shows the humanity that Sherlock has, even though he's still standoffish. He's grown as a person when it comes to the people that matter to him.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a huge portion of what this story does, is that it's not as much about the mystery. It's about the journey of Sherlock's growth as a person and the relationship between John and Mary and what's going on there, because they are experiencing the not the low point of a relationship, but they are going through the times where it's not necessarily fun and exciting anymore. You know, John's used to running around with Sherlock, but now he's got a baby and they have responsibilities. So he and his wife often don't get to see each other. And when they do, it's in passing the baby on to each other so that they can both go out and do their things, be it helping solve crimes or whatever. And so, and this was a tough part of this episode, is we see John start to stray.
Yeah.
We see John not being as totally enamored with his life with Mary, who he truly loves.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely does. And I think that that leads into part of why he reacts in the way he does to Sherlock at the end, is he reacts to Sherlock basically saying how he failed them, how he promised to protect them. But I think his anger is really more at himself, because while he's sitting there and he's seeing this woman that he loves and he would have given anything to save in that moment die in his arms, and he can't do anything about it, he also knows that while she's telling him how he was everything to her and how the only reason that she could even see existing is her happiness in being Mary Watson, he's thinking about the fact that he pretty much cheated on her. I don't know if it's established that he actually went all the way with it, but even when he started to break it off, he saw the woman that he was trying to break it off with, and then they kind of continued. And even if not in the act, in just the thoughts, in just the pursuit, in just the allowances, he was cheating on her. And that's
they do hit on that in the second episode, where it was only texts.
Okay.
But still, it was, you're hitting it on the head. Even though it was only texts, it was there is a lot of regret, and this is you do see in the second episode. You see him having a lot of regret in the fact that where it was only text messages, he wasn't 100% faithful to Mary. Where here she was faithful enough to tell him her real name, to tell him everything she had done, and all that, to give him the "this is my life, this is what I've done" device, and him to trust at that time, just to trust her enough just to throw it in the fire like we saw last in series 3. um he felt like he didn't quite live up to that.
Yeah. Now
No.
the other thing is it's an inside baseball thing. It's not something that I want to think too much about, but there is the aspect that Martin Freeman and Amanda Ablington had been married for 15 years and they ended their marriage
Mm-hmm.
this past year. Presumably they were already in the midst of that when this was being filmed, and it's not like this caused Mary's character to be killed, because we know from the books, we know from the history of the John Watson character that he's been married multiple times, that there was not just one woman in his life in the book, so they can follow that into this series and show reasons why he would be with different people. But it is kind of a weird reflection to see them having broken up in real life and then see her character leave the series suddenly at the same time. It feels like it might be harsh, even if it's not.
Yeah. Um. So what I will say about the second episode, and I am going to be kind to Corey, mainly because the discovery of how things went, I enjoyed. Um, the second episode does kick off, and you hit it on the head earlier with um in the spoiler tag warning stuff, that Sherlock is one of them shows that has, where it's not episodic, or it is episodic. It's not like Black Mirror where you can come in at any episode and watch whatever episodes you want. Um it's one of those, there are through lines throughout here. They've set up that through line. And it's one of those, it's one of the things I love about Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss with their writing, from seeing them from Doctor Who over to this, where they play the long con. They will set something up here to where you're like, wait, did they reshoot that? I'm thinking of with Doctor Who for the 50th anniversary special, where they're pulling at stuff that I swear they pulled up stuff from when Stephen Moffat was just a writer during the David Tennant era, not the showrunner. And I'm like, has he been setting this up this whole time? Is he God? Sort of thing. And but and so that continued here. The one thing that I will get back with you, or that I will swing back on though real quick, is how did you feel about the fight scenes in the Six Thatchers?
I felt a couple of things. One is, I mean, if you're going off of modern Sherlock Holmes, we saw in the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock films how he utilized his skills to be able to have a quarrel with somebody, get into a skirmish where he measures things out. It even made it into the epic rap battles of history of Sherlock Holmes versus Batman, which is still one of the best things ever. When we also have to understand that there's a establishment of, at this point in time, Sherlock has been in physical danger enough times that it makes a certain degree of sense that he would up his game when it comes to that. He would be able to defend himself, protect himself. And I don't think he did anything that was so totally out of character with him. It wasn't like he was doing James Bondian things where he was like leaping over moving cars,
Yeah.
and picking up guns and being a crack marksman, which it almost seems like he should. I think it was just enough, but it was a quick fight, but it was a hard fight. And he was fighting somebody who was apparently very skilled.
Yeah.
But again, observations and reaction times are what Sherlock is about. When he sees how you move towards him, he notices things out of the corner of his eye and says, oh, there's something not right over that table, by what's missing as opposed to what's there. That's what he does. So I get how they utilize in this. It just, I can see why it would be off-putting, because we've gotten to the assumption that he's a very cerebral character, and that's how we perceive him overall.
He is, and I'm going to quote something from Mark Gatiss in the behind the scenes stuff that they aired before The Lying Detective. In the novels, Sherlock is an accomplished boxer. Sherlock is an accomplished fencer.
Yep.
So what I took with that is sort of going, what would prevent Sherlock, a modern day, living in 2017 Sherlock, what would prevent him from learning, various martial arts techniques like Krav Maga, or, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai, um, or, how to be a marksman with a gun, to where it might look, I'm going to say it anyways. I don't know if it's this one, if it's for the second episode, I apologize, but where he's able to pull off shooting a gun crazily. I'm realizing this is the second episode, to where people are like, what is going on? What is he going to hit me? And him able to be like, I know you're there. I'm still shooting the gun because I know it's going to go here, not here.
Right. So, and that's the thing, is it seems like something that he would do strictly to show off. It seems like something he would do just to have people react like, how the hell can you do that? I'm fucking Sherlock Holmes. Have you not been paying attention? I just look at me. Look at the coat. Yeah. I'm Sherlock. That's
exactly. And so I will say, for The Lying Detective, I loved it. It is. I think Sherlock early on had the thing of, first episode is great, middle episode was a little blah. Third episode was
middle
great.
Episode feels like, because it's usually the first episode is setting up for the season, the last episode is the payoff for the season, so the middle episode is not necessarily a filler episode, but it's not going to give you that throughput story getting done. But I don't think they're ever weak, and the fact is that there's only 3 episodes ever in a season, so it's not like you're waiting a long time to get to that last one.
It's I probably shouldn't say weak. I'd say the weaker of the 3.
It's not looked at with the same degree of importance, because 1 and 3 are usually where they land. Yeah. I since I haven't seen the second one, I can't say what the comparison is, but I know that a lot has been made about the actor who's playing the presumed villain in that, and what kind of characters he's playing.
Yeah,
and that it seems like they're not holding back on the second episode in this.
No, yeah, that's exactly actually what I was going to say. Is it didn't seem like this is going to be the weaker episode of them.
Now, on the other hand, though, you can't say that the importance of the first episode isn't a big deal. But it's strange, because we've only had, in a final turn, 5 episodes of Mary.
Yeah.
We had the 3 in the last season, and then we had a bit of her in the special as some as herself and some not as herself. And, this episode here. So Mary's story, it feels like she's been a part of it for far longer, but that's because there's only been, now 12 episodes. It's kind of weird, because it feels like it's been so long for her. It feels like it's been so long for them. It feels like a very dense amount of story. It is, but a lot of it is because there's just so long in between seasons, and they're short.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. What I will say with the second episode is it's really great. It is really cerebral. I said it earlier, it is the perfect combination of the classic Sherlock Holmes, like going from the books Sherlock Holmes, but putting on the Benedict Cumberbatch, this is the beginning of the season twist to it. the beginning of the show twist, with Study in Pink. Um, they do have this is minor, but they do have Sherlock doing drugs in here. But how that pays off, you're like, wait, what? Why? Oh my gosh, this dude is freaking crazy, but in a good way. Sort of deal. But yeah, so I mean, that being said, I cannot wait for this Sunday with the third episode in this season.
Yeah, it almost sucks to like. We want to tell people because this is something that we both watch. We're very excited to watch. But then there's only 3 episodes, and it's not like we come back next week and we could talk about the last episode. Because it's just like it's 2 weeks of straight Sherlock. That's it. Sherlock podcast coming to you once every 4 years on Galactic Network.
Yeah. But no, yeah. So check that out. Sherlock airs at 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on PBS, and then it airs, I believe, at the same time, 9 or 10, on BBC One in the UK. Wherever else, figure it out. So real quick, because we did talk a lot about that, but I wanted to hit another nerding out just so we have the balance there. And it's a comic book, because I've been reading comic books. Actually, I got 2 of them. One is a series, Civil War II. I hit it in the news segment, and I want to touch base on it here. So Civil War II was written by Brian Michael Bendis, and they finished.
Want to call that writing? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's an interesting premise here that I don't think the ramifications were all that great. So to start this off, there is a new Inhuman that is that has emerged, named Ulysses, who has the ability to quote unquote predict the future. How he does that is sort of determined by the information that is coming to him, and all that. So 2 sides get brought up. Tony Stark wants to protect the future, by not using by not using Ulysses' powers, because he feels like it's only a possibility. And this is getting too much like Minority Report, and I think they even mentioned Minority Report numerous times throughout the main book and the
call out the thing you're ripping off. Always a smart idea to do that in a story.
But and then Captain Marvel wants to utilize Ulysses to bring to protect, to basically do Minority Report, to get this predictive justice going out, because they had 2 really good, well, one really good and then one ended bad, usings of his ability, where you stopped a giant cosmic, like Galactus size creature from destroying the planet, and then the other one you successfully predicted when Thanos would come to a research facility, a shield research facility, so you're able to save a bunch of people, and then get your boyfriend killed and your best friend put in a coma. In James Rhodes' War Machine got obliterated by Thanos, and then She-Hulk was thrown in a coma. And yet Captain Marvel still wanted to continue on going. So I will say the weak points were the middle issues, were issues 4, 5, and 6, because it didn't seem like there was a lot that was happening.
That is every Bendis event ever.
Yeah. Well, but not only that, because Bendis also while he was writing this was also still writing the Iron Man book. I believe he just wrapped um Invincible Iron Man. Was writing Spider-Man, and I think there might have been another book. But it seems like those books, especially the ones for
I was assuming he's doing the Miles Morales Spider-Man too.
yeah, that's the Spider-Man.
And he had been doing the Guardians books.
Yep, and the Guardians. That was it. The other one, the Guardians of the Galaxy book. Um, he's writing all these, so he is able to spread the story out amongst them all. There was like a good
because that's the thing that Bendis doesn't have enough of is room to spread a story out over a 7-issue series that becomes 8 issues by the end of every fucking Marvel event book. We're giving you an extra issue. It's going to take 12 months for it to come out, but fuck it. And you'll see other ramifications in books 3 to 6 months before you actually see the end of its own title. Yeah.
That is the one thing I will give Marvel credit for, where they did give us the extra issue. It didn't seem like it took as long to get to this book. But this one, it felt like a more of a delay because of the artist, and I'm blanking on the artist of the book. But he had some personal issues come up while they were drawing, while he was doing the art. So they actually got a lot of the other artists to help out with this. It was actually my pick for Galactic Radio's pull list 2-3 weeks ago when it came out.
It was David Marquez. And again, I want to point out every Marvel event seems to have the artist towards the end needs help from other artists to come step in to help catch up, or do pages along the way. Every Marvel event,
but this one was different because
it's not different. You are fucking you are in the burning bed right now because you are excusing your abusive boyfriend.
No, so you are saying
no, it means he loves me and he's gonna get better. It's never gonna fucking get better. It's Jaws 4. It started as shit, it remained as shit, it finished as shit, and it was 9 fucking years long.
So you're telling me that because a dude who is drawing a comic book, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a family thing. Like a family thing had gotten in his way.
And if you don't
it's
think
Marvel
that dude was thrown under the fucking bus and say, you better come out and say it was a family, we have a prepared speech because the guy who wrote the last one had it already written for you. It doesn't fucking matter. Bendis will sign off on it. You'll stutter a lot and pause and sound just like Luke Cage. That's the same fucking deal over. It's like clockwork. And by clocks, I mean not a human clock that goes at an actual perpetual motion of time, because they don't. They just fucking trail off. It is ridiculous. And I don't blame if the artist actually had a fucking problem. I'm sorry, man. I get it. I understand. I don't take issue with you. You know what I take issue with? Fucking Marvel and their fucking bullshit editors and the fucking bullshit writers who do this shit every time, knowing full well how it's going to happen, how it's going to turn out, and they never change their fucking mentality to like, let's get this in the bag before we fucking start putting it out there, because maybe shit's going to fall apart at the end and we're going to pop on an extra issue to a guy who already can't make a fucking deadline every fucking time. When DC can get out a book every 2 weeks for a title consistently for now 6 months or so, and Marvel can't do their biggest fucking event and their numbers are tanking, even though they charge up to $2 to $3 more an issue for their shit for no extra content. Fuck Marvel. Fuck them in the asshole. And by that, I mean, I'm sorry if you had some family issues.
Yes.
But fuck Marvel. Fuck them in the asshole.
But in all seriousness with this, because I will admit I did not pay for the comics, because I'm a filthy pirate who needs more money to afford to buy all the comics that he wants to read. This is one of those like I did enjoy the story. It did have this end to it that did seem a little natural, a little bit natural. They did hint, because you hit on one of the things that Marvel does, where the last issue always gets pushed back to when the book that would premiere outside of it or from it premieres before that book ends. So with this one, it was um, the Invincible Iron Man, the one with Riri Williams, Infamous Iron Man, the one with Doctor Doom, Champions, which I believe Champions was the one that had it the most. But with where it debuted, or with where it premiered, it seemed like that was the most okay, because the Champions, which if you don't know who they are the Sam Alexander, Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, Amadeus Cho, and Viv Vision,
And Cyclops.
and Cyclops, and the young Cyclops. They had all left. Well, the first three had already left the Avengers because of this war, because, and you know, and with their series tie-ins, you see how this affects them. Like it affected Miss Marvel the most. Actually, well, her and Miles Morales. Just because it's like, we respect both sides. We see where it's coming from both sides, but you know, like you see in the Miss Marvel tie-in, you could see how it can so easily be twisted into, oh, you're going to jaywalk in a week, let's throw you in jail right now because of that sort of thing. And so they're like, we're done. We quit. You guys bitch and moan amongst yourselves. We're going to go over here and we're going to actually do some good in the world and all that. And that's where, and so that's where,
and which is sort of the opposite tack of what the first Civil Wars had, which was the whole thing happened because of the young heroes, the new warriors that were trying to be celebrities on TV and doing a reality show, got all gung-ho and went and fought somebody who was way outside of their league. They couldn't contain him, and he blew up and destroyed a whole town full of people and killed most of the team. Until they all came back and fucking they turned Speedball Independence of what kind of bullshit fucking crap. So as a non-reader of this book, because fuck, I'm hearing most of all what this did is it just basically took any kind of empathy for Captain Marvel and destroyed it. Because this is a person who is okay with her. They fucking killed Bruce Banner because of the promise that some shit might happen. The Hulk might go crazy. The Hulk goes crazy all the fucking time, but they all show up there, and then Hawkeye just shoots him in the face. And the fucking shit with Rhodey dying and everything else. It's such utter bullshit, and it makes no sense that there is a acceptance of this. Like the series starts out. Or maybe just before the series, there's the thing where the president is talking to James Rhodes saying, you know, you might be someone that we groomed to be the next president. And then it ends with him saying, well, your boyfriend's dead. How about you, bitch? And to Captain Marvel. And no fucking sense at all. And that's a problem that Bendis has, is he wants to get these ideas out there. He, like, these are the notes he wants to hit, but he has no way to make the story equal out to these moments happening. He just force feeds it to you and says, here, eat this shit. I wrote Spider-Man once. It was pretty good. Wish that could happen again. No, fuck you. Fuck you for not understanding what characterization means. Fuck you for not being able to stay true to who these people are. Fuck you for giving us another book where they can't be fucking heroes for 5 fucking pages, except to just stand around and talk to each other for like 9 of them. I just don't get why this shit keeps happening. I don't understand. Like, it's not selling. That's a problem in and of itself. Retailers, comic retailers are falling apart right now. And they're falling apart because Marvel is continuously pushing out relaunches of books with titles that don't fucking matter. You know, 1,000 Deadpool spinoffs of characters that nobody wants and nobody's going to read. And all of their basic characters are getting replacements. And it's not like I have a problem with the fact that, oh, there's a young black woman who's Iron Man now. Well, you know, okay, I get it. You're trying to introduce something new. But every fucking book as starring somebody else in the role of a main character, except for the one that stars Captain America, where he is part of Hydra. So something fundamentally is fucked up that DC has now turned around and is getting it right. And like, hey, we have all these really great characters that people seem to like way back in the day. We should make those kinds of books again. And Marvel's like as far fucking from that as possible.
Yeah.
And it's hurting the industry and it's hurting the fans. And this continued idea of like, here's this event that's going to lead into what is already announced. The next fucking event, which is the Captain America event, is coming up, which comes out of Civil War II, the giant success shithole that it was, because something happened where Miles beat up Captain America, and that maybe in the future someday, and they all went after Miles Morales. Like, hey, let's go beat up this little kid for maybe doing something to a guy that we just assume is our friend, but we didn't really fucking verify shit. Now, DC has a detective.
Yeah.
DC has someone who actually like goes out and looks and says, none of this makes a lot of sense. Does Marvel have anybody like that? I would assume it's Moon Knight, and he just goes, I'm white, and runs off into the fucking dark.
No, Moon Knight actually right now is like dealing with like trying to gather his multiple personalities back.
Yeah, I feel like Marvel is doing that too.
Yeah. What I will say is, with your analogy, I do feel like there are some of the writers in Marvel who are trying to turn the ship back around. And I will reference Chip Zdarsky with him taking over the Star-Lord book, because this is Star-Lord stranded on Earth, and doing, trying to have some sort of normalcy while being Star-Lord, but also being grounded because his ship got blown up because, like you would say, Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shit. We had a spaceship and shit when we got here. Anybody got a spare spaceship? What happened to the people who do all the shit with spaceships? It seemed like everybody on this fucking planet had a spaceship at one point, right? Because I've seen you all. I've seen you fucking X-Men go up with a Shi'ar and fight the Brood and stuff in space. I know that the Fantastic Four are fucking gone, but all their shit's in storage, right? Like I can open up a locker and pull out something that Reed didn't even have to fake, and his fucking 4-year-old daughter could have made some shit that was fucking stellar as fucking crazy. I could maybe borrow bum me a fucking spaceship right now. Tony, oh, you're dead? Oh, comatose? Whatever. I don't fucking know. You comatose, Tony, can make me a fucking spaceship. That's what you fucking do. Or just give me some rocket boots and I'll fly there. I don't give a fuck. No, nobody really in the Marvel universe, no spaceships for the fucking Star-Lord. So I'm just here. I'm just here now with my raccoon friend and a tree. All right. Yeah, sure. This is gonna work.
Yeah. So real quick, this one is gonna be really quick. The other book that I recommend is drawn by Neil Adams. This is a brand new book, drawn by Neil Adams, written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor, and this is Harley Quinn's Little Black Book, number 5 of 6. They got, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Neil Adams draw the Superman fighting Muhammad Ali? Or was that
I believe
else?
so. Neil Adams has drawn a lot of stuff over time.
Well, this is Neil Adams and doing the artwork, like I said, but this is Superman and Harley Quinn boxing each other to become champion of the world, and then fighting their captor's challenger to save the world. And good God, I loved this book because where it was longer, it was, I believe, 41 pages long. It was well worth the read, and seeing the art and stuff, seeing it in here, having Harley breaking the fourth wall, where she's addressing the readers and the editors and stuff like that. It was freaking great. And I feel like this would just emphasize everything you said in the rant about Marvel. Because it seems like DC is killing it right now, and this is one of the books that they are definitely killing it in. But yeah, and I highly recommend you pick up Harley Quinn's Little Black Book #5. It came out last week, the last week of 2016. But yeah, so that is the Else Views, and we will be right back.